Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't think he's that hard to guard.
There is this hallucination a little bit, like every guy that's a top pick is gonna all of a sudden destroy the stats.
I don't know if we've had a receiver come in with these expectations in some time. It's difficult when you come into the league and everybody on the planet is saying you are a gold jacket player before you've played an NFL game.
I've never experienced that, so I'm not sure. Sounds pretty tough.
Marvin Harrison Jr., 4th overall to the Arizona Cardinals from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, my hometown. Went to the Prep. What do you know about the Prep? Well, it's a pretty good school for high school football. Goes to The Ohio State University, where I also went to school.
The Ohio State University, national champs.
National champs, no big deal. And he goes out and has a season, Steve. I wanted to start with this. 17 games, 16 starts, 116 targets, 62 catches, 885 yards for 14.3 yards per reception, 8 touchdowns, and 43 first downs. The reason I went through all of his stats, do you want to know what Dad's rookie season was?
Do tell.
16 games, 15 starts, 118 targets, 64 catches, 8 touchdowns, 43 first downs, 13.1 yards per reception. Father and son, Steve, almost exact rookie season.
Sorry.
And the other guy, which I find fascinating, who almost has the exact stats as well from their rookie season, maybe the greatest Cardinals player ever in Larry Fitzgerald.
Expectations, I believe, were a little bit unrealistic. Is he a rare talent? Yes. Impact player, stats are showing it. Top pick in any draft. That's just the expectations in the first round. NFL starter, should be a significant contributor early in his career. Like, that's who he is. But there is this hallucination a little bit, like every guy that's a top pick is gonna all of a sudden, he's gonna destroy the stats that no one has ever seen. And I love the fan base who believes it, but then there's this tussle between fans and analysts where if you don't agree with lowering the expectations, then all of a sudden we're haters. Obviously, watching him in college, you knew he was going to be a dynamic football player. Whoever was going to draft him, he was going to make that team better. Now, I believe he's made that team better.
We were at that pro day. I remember you telling me just, watching how Marvin moves and how he gets in and out of things and his footwork and how polished he was. I think that word was the word that was used so much for Marvin.
I just see Marvin as a complete wide receiver. He's not necessarily a burner. I thought it was very good. Actually, business savvy and smart that he didn't run any 40s because again, when you're one of the top picks and considered a rare talent, everything you do actually puts minuses on your evaluation chart because you're already there. You're so high up that anything you do, like people were saying about you, man, he had a booger in his nose, right? He didn't lace up his shoe.
I don't know if we've had a receiver, Steve, come in with these expectations in some time. 2-3 years ago, you were hearing Joel Klatt say, this is going to be the best receiver in the NFL in 5 years.
Yeah,
the praise was through the roof. And we saw a 2-year really build up into this, right?
Yeah, sure.
And so how do you live up to that, I think was part of the issue when I think his season was still fine. It's the second most receiving yards by a rookie in Cardinals history. It's more touchdowns than any rookie has had in Cardinals history. But you look at what we were dealing with coming in. I mean, I talked to one executive, it was like, he's the highest grade I've ever given a player at any position. So, because everybody's expectations were so high, I think he still played fine. I'd give him a good grade for handling it. It's difficult, I would think, and I'd like a player's perspective, when you come into the league and everybody on the planet is saying you are a gold jacket player before you've played an NFL game.
I've never experienced that, so I'm not sure. Sounds pretty tough.
Well, I just special team Steve rookie year was not handling.
But you know what I'm saying? I have to be honest. Generally, you could characterize it, but you don't really know how much competition, how much mental awareness, production, consistency, inconsistency, durability, and then the other part, pressure, right? The pressure. Not everybody understands and deals with pressure the same way. We've done some breakdowns and some people have said some things and then it comes out a couple of weeks later that GMs are disappointed with the performance of their second-round draft pick.
This is what I gather from the Cardinals side of things, Steve. Then we'll get into your film of Marvin. The transition to the pros, a little bumpier than they expected.
I got to do with that offense. Sorry.
Still learning what it takes to win effectively week in and week out, and the speed of the game at the NFL level. Needs to dictate his routes to the defense and not let the defense control Harrison and where he goes.
That's kind of tough to do in your first year in the offense. Your quarterback getting used to throwing to a rare player, an all-pro level player at some point that he's going to be in his career. So that takes a little bit of understanding how Kyler throws the football, how Marvin runs his routes versus man-to-man coverage, how Marvin runs his routes versus zone coverage or double team. So that's not necessarily fair to put on Marvin.
You're right, and I love that you jumped in and said that, because if I keep going, there were a lot of spots that he was open and Kyler just missed him.
Sometimes a rush.
Yeah.
Sometimes they got him off the spot where he didn't have time to throw it. That offensive line in the beginning of the season, they were a little sketchy.
My next note right here, offensive line had plenty of issues. These are all just the factors into Marvin's season. These aren't like knocks by any stretch. It's just kind of the way his year went and the situation that he went into, and that's why you said there's so many other factors that go into it. So let's take a look at the film, because I want to see kind of what you see, because all the factors I mentioned, the Cardinals also believe they're almost all correctable. This episode of 89 is brought to you by Roe. Listen up, people. It's spring, right? Everything is in bloom. So let's talk a little birds and bees, because everybody's a little frisky in the spring. And Roe Sparks, well, they have you covered. If you're looking for a little boost, a little more fun for you and your partner, well, Roe has it taken care of. Now, I'm no doctor, but you put it under your tongue, it dissolves, it lasts for up to 36 hours, so you can go back to back to back to back if you'd like. Now, Roe connects you with a medical provider 100% online, so there's no awkward face-to-face interaction. And, if you're approved, ship directly to your door. So if prescribed, new sexual health patients will get $15 off Sparks on a reoccurring plan. So connect with the provider at roe.co/89 to find out if a prescription for Roe Sparks is for you. Be ready to play with Roe Sparks.
All right, so here we go. Against the Washington Commanders. Just a normal deep end. Down here at the bottom, nothing special. But just watch my man how he runs this route. This is a guy, he's been doing this and doing it well. Inside, gets the corner going, keeps everything straight, looks at the defender, chop, chop, ball in air. We'll see. But I love the route. Simple. He's in the slot, gives him a hop setup. And what I mean by a hop setup is sometimes these coaches say, hey, I don't want you to do that. But he gives the setup, realizes that he took a bad angle initially, but straightens back up, gives himself an opportunity, positions himself well. This kid knows how to run routes, and he knows how to run routes very well. He's down here in the slot going against Frankie Louvu. Frankie Louvu will knock your boogers out your nose. Well, covering is just not his MO. And what I love about this route is Frankie Louvu is already outside of him. Remember when I was talking about the simplicity of route running, that when you have the inside route, you must finish on the inside, but on the outside route, you must finish on the outside? Sleight of hand, magic trick. He gives him everything to Frankie Louvu to believe, hey, I'm going back inside, He makes him feel that he's going inside. So he fist fights in the phone booth right there. Frankie crosses over, gets his feet outside of his shoulders. Here's the part that it could be seen as being a little bit hypocritical on my part. It's like, oh, Steve, Marvin got outside of his shoulders. Yes, he did. But he's driving a car. Frankie Louvu is the passenger. Frankie just looking at the navigation and listening to Siri say, hey, Marvin, you're supposed to turn left.
Put on his blinker.
He got his blinker on, but he's saying, tricky, peekaboo. Goes crossover, boom. Some people may call it different routes. I called it a Q route. Why is this a great route? Is because you have to sell the route. As he's running the route, the DB, he's doing the numbers. He's saying, hey, he's not running curls, he's not running the hitch, he's not running. Oh, guess what? He's running something else, comes back down the stem. Now, body catch, but again, that just kind of depends on how the ball is going. It's indoors, sun, was the roof open, the lights, the glare. It's a lot of different factors.
He kind of comes back to it too in this route, Steve.
Yes, he does. Because he takes the proper high angle, comes right back to it. That's what you say, making yourself friendly where you get the angle and allow the throw to dictate the depth that you come back to. Love this play against the 49ers because it's a big box fade. Big box fade is about being patient. It's about setting up your guy. You got to fight off guys, but then at the same time, you got to not be too handsy. Give him a little chicken wing, right? Some people like drumettes, some people like flats, but when you're a receiver, you like the wang, and so you just go ahead and give it to him. This one against Miami, it's nothing special about this route, but what I love about this route is what he does right. You see that Miami's in, they're showing man, but then all of a sudden it shows zone coverage, and he goes over top of the linebacker, not underneath. Over the top is patience and understands the why. Underneath is saying, I'm going to run to open space, but you don't understand when you do that. It throws off the timing. It messes up the integrity of the route. It does not penetrate. It actually causes more confusion. It's about listening to the communication, understanding what you're seeing, and also settling down in a hole to understand and be friendly to the quarterback so he can throw a precise ball to protect you from getting your helmet knocked out.
You know, a big thing was said about Kyler at the end of the year where he was talking about, you know, I have to, and Marvin has to, we need to keep this relationship growing. But this route to me, and tell me if I'm wrong, like this is the type of thing where you got to get to know your receiver and what he's going to do right and what he's going to do wrong in situations like that. Does that make sense?
And the receiver has to know, will the quarterback do the right thing too? What you don't want to do is allow your quarterback to throw you into a headache, you know, that blue tip ball, where all of a sudden you think you're going to catch it, then you're looking at the Lord and they talking about, they bring you a smelling salt, talking about, what's your name? You talking about, I'm Batman. Like, you don't want that. I've seen it. Boy. Now, this is the last one against the Seattle Seahawks. This is particularly good because this is against Tariq Woolen, and you know against Seahawks, they run a lot of cover three. They're up in your face. The stutter go comeback widens off his release. However, he works the route and recovers because he has active hands. Active hands is extremely important. Understanding you can't just play with the route with your feet and sell it with your body. You also got to understand there's times where none of that is working. And so you have to be able to get yourself free, but make it legal to catch the ball because your offense and your quarterback is depending on you, especially with a deep pass like this, because now with a stutter comeback, the stutter now, all of a sudden the quarterback now has to fake with the shoulder with resetting, which means as he's shouldering the corner to the right, he's also eyeing the safety, which also says, I'm narrowing this down to where the other side of the field does not exist because I've committed, because that time clock in a play is coming, especially with the offensive line struggling as much as they struggle throughout the season. Understanding that the time clock of protection, the time clock of throwing the football, and also the receiver winning is all relied on expectations and people's doing their job.
See, let me ask you this, because Devin Witherspoon's on this defense. He had some choice comments during Super Bowl week about Marvin Harrison Jr. Said, I don't think he's that hard to guard.
Yeah, I love Devin, though. Devin is going to tell you, he's always going to say, a dude can have 300 yards or 2 yards. Devin is going to talk down to you. That's who he is. I love the kid. Had the opportunity to talk to him. So he's always one of those guys. He's going to keep it spicy. If you give him 10 cents, he's going to tell you it was a nickel or it was 2 pennies. He's always going to sell you short. But that's his competitive edge, and I love it.
It is, but he also went on to say, Steve, he said, he's a big receiver, though. Contested catches is where he gets you. Even if you're close to him and you feel like you're guarding him well, he can make the catch. And that's what's frustrating about guarding Marvin.
For route running, I'm going to give him a B. For catching, I got to give him an A. There was times where he caught the football and the ball was thrown into places that you would see a veteran catch the football. Every receiver drops a pass. But you got to understand, this is also a young guy. This is his first year and the expectations of keeping his mouth closed, doing his job, going about his business. He did that. And potential, for me, I think the potential is less on him and more what do the Arizona Cardinals do to increase production for everybody, to give Marvin an opportunity to play one-on-one football versus being double-teamed. And so potential, I give him a B because that potential is predicated on management making good decisions. And when we say good decisions, and we're talking about the Arizona Cardinals, there's always a question mark. For me, final grade has to be a B. We've been giving out a lot of C's, and I understand that, but man, I'm not going to give out any fails or D's just because at the end of the day, man, for me, has to be a B. Rare talent, Pro Bowl level player at his position in the NFL. I see nothing but bright lights and stars, and the moon and the space is his playground to play when he gets up to the level that we believe he will be at.
And Steve, I just throw this out there, talk to a couple of GMs, talk to a couple of scouts, personnel people just about Marvin and his season. This is kind of what I got. They all were a little, obviously, surprised by maybe the numbers. We talked about that at the beginning of this. But they also kind of tiptoed around going, I'm not sure all of this is Marvin's fault or this falls on Marvin. A couple of them brought up usage. A couple of them brought up on how he was used, how he was deployed. Obviously, the quarterback situation came up with a couple of these guys I talked to, and they were curious about how that impacted him. Obviously, the offensive line. Nobody knocked Marvin's game in his rookie year. I'll say that. But there were some questions about how he was used, the situation that he was put in, that he's going into. But I also want to close with this. Everybody knows the work ethic that Marvin Harrison Jr. has, and it's through the roof. And so everybody has, here we go again, high expectations for year two as he goes into his sophomore season because they know how hard he works and what he does to better himself in his game. I'm excited to see him in year two.
What would be a realistic expectation for Marvin then? 1,500 yards? I'm just wondering. I'm not saying that, but I'm just wondering.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to battle this his entire career, Steve, honestly. Because
so you know what I like to call that? That's rich people problems, bro.
Hey, who's been doing it and they've been flourishing? Pat Surtain. I mean, This is a very similar type of situation. One on the defensive side of the ball, one on the offensive side of the ball. Mm-hmm. There
were some question marks about the Arizona Cardinals early in the year. There were some routes that I was watching. Seemed very predictable. The concept
That's what you said.
Seemed to be, I know.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, keep going then. Make me feel better.
They're going to have to change some things up this year or they're going to become predictable. The same thing that Nico Collins has been one of those guys where he played so well last year, started off the year, but the offense kind of started to do the exact same thing, so not making adjustments. So I just hope that doesn't happen in Arizona if they continue not to evolve their passing game.